Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Denise and today is my knitting sock tutorial. It's not going to be a stitch by stitch, but it is going to be a tutorial on how I knit my socks 2 at a time magic loop. Okay, so my setup is a little bit not professional at all. I've got the tripod in front of my new desk and I'm sitting behind the tripod, so everything will be done around that. If I knock it, I apologise. So let's just get started. I am using this Lolly's sock yarn. It is 75-25, if that will focus. So this is what it is. It's a 100-gram ball and I have caked it up into 2 50-gram balls. Now you can cake it up if you don't have a ball winder. You can just roll it into a 50-gram ball. So that's what I've done, and that is the first thing that I will need. If you are going to be following the Fish Lips Kiss Heel, you will need 2 stitch markers. Now you will need 1 stitch marker that has the lobster clasp on it, just so that you can determine what is the front and what is the back. So you will need one with some sort of clasp on it. The next one you will need will have to have a jump ring or some sort of circle on it that will go over your needle if you are doing the Fish Lips Kiss Heel. If you are doing a heel flap and gusset, then you will not need these. Unless you are a complete beginner, then stitch markers are always handy anyway. The needles that I use are the Knit Pro Zings 80 centimetre 2.5 mil, and I use 64 stitches. So let's get started. Okay, so I use 2 separate needles. Now I knit my cuff 1 at a time. So I will cast on 1 cuff onto 1 circular needle, then I will knit the next cuff on the 2nd circular needle, and then I will put both socks together and then start knitting 2 at a time. So I'm going to show you how I cast on and how I knit my first cuff. So here is my ball of yarn and here is my needle. I always start from the centre just because it is easier for me to do it like that. Now I just pull some out from the middle. Obviously I'm going to be casting on, so you want to pull out quite a chunk because you're not just going to be pulling out a tiny little bit and thinking that will do as you need to do a cast on. I use the long tail cast on. Now I will be showing you how I do it. I will not be explaining in great detail how it's done, just because I haven't really got the setup. But I normally pull 1 metre of yarn and then I think to myself, okay, I'm going to start my long tail cast on here. I will link some videos down below of long tail cast on, and I might even link something up here if I can. But there will be links down below of anything that I do that I'm not very good at explaining, basically. So here is my yarn. I'm just going to push that out of the way. Long tail cast on. I don't use a slip knot, I just put the needle under the yarn and basically do it like that. So if this is a method that you would like to use, then by all means go and see a tutorial for it. This series of videos is just going to be the basics on how I knit my socks 2 at a time magic loop. A lot of people have asked me how I do it, so this is what I am doing. I'm not brilliant at tutorials. I just haven't got the setup or anything, so let's get started with casting on. I use the long tail, so I'm going to cast on 64 stitches. Doing it round a camera is not easy. So that's 3, Okay, so I now have 64 stitches on my needle. I have got my finger here because I need to put 32 stitches on the other end, so that my needles are like that with these stitches on this needle. So I need to pull my stitches onto the cable and just bend the cable slightly and pull it through. So I now have something that looks a little bit like that. Now what I want to do now is make sure that my stitches are not twisted. Always make sure that your cable is on your left hand side. I want to make sure that my stitches are not twisted, so I want to push them onto the needle, which they are twisted a little bit, so sorry about the noise on the desk with the needle. Now what you want to do is make sure that your ends are on the back needle. That is how you are going to start. Now to make sure that your stitches are not twisted, let's push this on a little bit more, is that your stitches, you will see, if I can get it to focus, all your stitches will be on the underneath. So that is the underneath, and then the top will look like that with all your loops on your needle. Okay, then you want to start by doing 2x2 rib. Now you want to make sure that you don't pick up your towel end, obviously, because you will run out of yarn. So make sure that you are always using the yarn that is attached to the ball. Now you want to pull this over your back needle, otherwise this will create a stitch that is not needed. So you want to make sure that this is pulled over and up, not too tight because you're going to knit with it. So you want to hold that and then just pull this back needle out and start doing your 2x2 rib. So making sure that you've knit your first 2 stitches, you want to then go on to purl 2 stitches and do a 2x2 purl all the way to the end of the row. I've now come to the end of the row. So now all I want to do is turn my work so my cable is on my left hand side again, and pull my stitches, pull my cable onto my stitches and put my stitches back on to that cable to start the back. Now you are always only working on half of the stitches at a time when you are doing magic loop, and my yarn is all wrapped around my tripod. There we go. So then all we want to do again is make sure that your yarn is over the back needle, because if it is like that, you will, if it is falling underneath, you will create a stitch that you do not need. So make sure that your yarn is always above and on top, making sure that your needles are pretty much the same, and then you can pull your back. So your back needle long, like so, and 2x2 rib the back stitches. Okay, we're now at the end of that round. So again, you want to turn your work so your cable is on your left. Pull your needle, making sure not to twist your stitches, and your stitches should always be on the underneath of your work. So your stitches should always be on the underneath here. So pushing that on. Now I'm going to do about 7 rounds. I did say about 10, or I was thinking about 10, but I'm going to knit to 7 rounds. Here's what I made earlier. I'm a little bit prepared. But here's one I made earlier, and I believe this is 7 rounds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As I'm making shorty socks, I think 7 rounds will be completely fine. So what I'm going to do, here is one cuff done on one needle, and this is the second cuff that I'm knitting on this needle. I will then complete this needle and then put them together, or complete this cuff, sorry, then put them together. So I'm going to knit this 7 rounds long, and I will be back with you to show you how to put both cuffs on one needle. Okay, so I have finished the second cuff, which is this one, but obviously it doesn't matter, they are both exactly the same. It doesn't matter what is the first and the second, but now I'm going to show you how I put my cuffs onto one needle. Now I always knit across the stitches of one sock first, so let's do that. Let's just move that one back there a second. So this will be the right sock of my needle. So once I've got 2 on, I will have this sock here, and then that sock will be here. So let's knit across the first 32 stitches of this sock. Now these will all be knit stitches. As I have finished my cuff, we just knit all the way across. So them first stitches are now knit. Now you might be thinking, why didn't I just slip them stitches onto this needle or these onto that, vice versa? Because it's easier to actually knit them onto the needle that you need to knit them onto. So this is the first side that I've done. I'm going to drop that needle and pull it out a little bit, just so I can pull this needle along a little bit more, and then get this needle, and I'm going to knit the front stitches of this sock. Now instead of obviously pulling that long, I do pull it long just to make it a little bit easier. So pull that long and drop that one, so you have sort of 2 dropped needles and then 2 working needles. So push this one along and just knit all your stitches on the second sock. Okay, now you have knitted across that first, or that second sock. You now have, let me just pull that so it's right. You now have the front of both socks on the same needle. Now what we need to do is turn the work, so we are now at the back. Now this, you can get in a bit of a pickle with this, but just make sure that your needles are free. Okay, I just sorted myself out because I was in a little bit of a pickle. So we have the needle, the front at the back, yeah, the front stitches on the back needle, which are all on the same needle. We have the second sock on its own needle, all by its own, and then we have this here, which is the first needle that I am holding in this hand. So what we need to do is treat these back stitches as they are on one single needle, like normal basically. So we need to pull this needle, so the right hand side of the cable or the right hand needle comes to you, and we need to push the stitches onto that needle. So this one is dropped, but that's fine. We're going to come to that one in a second. Now what we need to do is just knit this like we did the front. So pull the cable needle out, making sure that there is enough this end that the actual stitches don't join. So pull this long until you have enough that you can start knitting. So into the first stitch and knit along all of those stitches on that first sock on this side. Okay, we're coming to the last couple of stitches on this needle, so I just thought I'd show you how it's done. So I'm on to the last 3 stitches, so we need to knit those 3 stitches, and then this cable needle then becomes free. So everything is on this needle. This one is now free, so we can roll that up, and I can show you that it's completely free, no sock on it, and I can put this back in the packet or in a bag or wherever you store your needles. I normally just put mine back in the packet just to make them, I know where they are, they stay safe, and I know that they're not going to get bent or anything, so let's just do that. Okay, with my needles back away, they will get put to one side, and let's get back to the sock. Okay, now we need to pull our yarn to the back, so make sure everything is at the back, especially for this sock here. So this one is the one we've just literally knitted. We can pull that down the cable a little bit, and this one we need to put the back needle back onto the stitches, or the stitches back onto the needle. So we are a little bit like this. So our needles are ready to knit and our cable is at the back. Now what we need to do is make sure that our working yarn is at the back, and we need to just knit all these stitches like we did the first sock. So as you can see here, I have 2 socks ready to knit magic loop 2 at a time. Okay, now I've got the 2 socks on one cable and it's all ready to go. I will now put this, if I was obviously not doing this tutorial, I would now put these into my sock knitting bag, and I would just work from this, and it would be quite easy to work from. Also, you can either put a stitch marker on the front, so once you have done one round and you've got both needles on both socks on one needle, you can then get a stitch marker and place this on the front, which is what I normally do whether I weave in the end straight away or not. So I just get a marker and mark the beginning of my sock, or the front of my sock. So this will be the front, and this bit here will be the back where the heel goes. But for this tutorial, or for this pair of socks, I've only knit 7 rows of rib. On my long socks I normally do 20 rows of rib, 60 rows of stocking stitch, which is knit only, vanilla, however you want to say it, then go into the heel. Now with these ones, as I'm making shorty socks, I will probably knit probably 7 to 10 rows, and then I will go straight into the heel. So all you need to do is knit across each of these socks, and that is magic loop 2 at a time, the cuff, and how to get 2 socks onto one needle. I will knit the cuff, and I will come back to you once, not the cuff, the leg. I will come back to you once I've got a few rows in, but I will be doing the Fish Lips Kiss heel, like I said. That is a paid for pattern. If it's something that you are interested in doing, then I will leave the link down below for that pattern. It's only £1, and it is so informative. It is unreal. And doing cuff down, you don't really need to know where to place the heel straight away, but obviously you need to know how long to make the sock. I know my socks are 71 rows long on the foot, and then I go into the toe, but that will all be explained in the next couple of videos that I will be sharing for this sort of series. But I'm going to knit the leg, which for me is not going to be very long. For you, you can do as many rows of rib as you want, any type of rib, 1 by 1 twisted, 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 2 by 1, 3 by 1, however you want to do it. And then you can knit for as long as you like for the actual leg. But I'm going to end this video here, and this is just basically showing you how I cast on, how I do the rib, and how I put both socks onto one needle. Please leave me any comments down below what I can improve on. Obviously my setup is not perfect, but this is just a basic on how I put my socks onto one needle, how I cast on. Maybe I will get better in the future on how I show tutorials, I don't know, but I know a lot of people was asking me how I knit 2 at a time and magic loop. So I'm going to now go on to knitting my cuff, and I shall see you all in the next one, which will probably be in a couple of days, just because obviously the cuffs for me, or the leg for me, is not going to take that long. So thank you for watching. Please leave me any feedback down below, good or bad. I need to know, because obviously this is my first tutorial, proper tutorial anyway. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you all in the next one. Bye!